Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The Harder They Fall, which is a new Netflix spaghetti western, and this is a black western. It focuses on an aspect of western culture that really wasn't focused on a whole lot, especially in Hollywood films, which was the fact that a lot of cowboys were freed slaves and were black, and not just a whole bunch of white people. And it's an interesting look and a different perspective on an old western in this film. And you have writer-director Jeymes Samuel, who also is known as The Bullets, who directed this film, and boy, does he direct the hell out of this film. This is full-blown, I felt some Django energy in terms of just how bam and in your face this was, and I think this works a lot better because there's actually a black voice behind this film, and it has those spaghetti western parts. There's at one point where this preacher is shot multiple times and he's blown away and stuff like that. You have some really impressive long zooming in. There's one particular crane zoom in from the top of a building all the way across a town right at Jonathan Majors on top of a horse, and I'm just yes. And there's a lot of great energy about this film, how it's shot, how it's edited. There's a very clear voice here. There's a lot of personality to the filmmaking. And there's an in-your-face attitude about it. And it's a fresh, interesting, and new twist on the spaghetti western. Because, you don't see a whole lot of westerns in general anymore. And you don't see a whole lot of spaghetti westerns specifically. And if it wasn't for, Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, I don't think a whole lot of people would be thinking about spaghetti westerns and, the over-the-top violence of what some westerns were like, and you definitely feel that in this film, and Samuel does a fantastic job of bringing that to life. I do have to say this is 2 hours and 17 minutes, and there's definitely sequences where the energy feels zapped out, and it feels like it's moving very slow, and trying to get this back into gear and back to the main thrust of the film. I think there was definitely some moments where it lost its way along the way. The story is to the point where it's all about revenge. And this outlaw that caused the distress of our main character is out of prison, and he wants revenge. He wants to come find him and kill him. And there's some interesting twists and turns in this narrative and the greater perception of how all these characters are connected with each other. And I thought that was really interesting. I didn't really see that coming necessarily towards the end of the film of here's some new perspectives on this, now rethink what you've been watching up to this point. It adds some complexity and layers to some of these characters, and I appreciate that each of the characters feels like they have a lot of personality. They have an individual kind of perspective, and they don't just feel like interchangeable characters. And along the way, there's some really well shot action, some intense action and violence, and some good themes and ideas about long-term abuse and what people do to remedy those things and the collateral damage of those decisions. And there's a lot going on here amongst this very specific revenge film. The cast is fantastic. I remember seeing the trailer and seeing everybody in this and just being this is going to be fantastic. Everybody's going to kill it. And they do. Jonathan Majors is a great lead in this film, and you're starting to see him pop up into more things. I know The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Lovecraft Country, Loki, and more of the MCU, and he brings a lot to Nat Love, the protagonist and the leader of this gang. You have Zazie Beetz, who is always fantastic, and she's a great addition to the film. Ryan Seiler, Eddie Gathegi, they're both great additions to this gang. You have and you also have Danielle Deadweiler. They're the Nat Love gang together, and they work really well, and they team up with this marshal played by Delroy Lindo, who's great in this film as well. And they're going head-to-head with this rival gang led by this man that Jonathan Majors wants revenge on because he killed his parents at the very beginning of the film in a very brutal and intense opening sequence. And that's Idris Elba, who's great in the film. And you have Regina King, who's tough as nails. Lakeith Stanfield has plenty of charisma and energy. This film gives so many great performances and characters. There's an energy around all of it, even though there's some pacing issues, and there's definitely some cliches. I don't know if this is as, from like a narrative standpoint and like an action standpoint, like what's actually going on might not be as exciting and new and fresh as you think it might be, but they bring a lot of fresh energy into it to kind of elevate some of these tired tropes and cliches. And what you get out of this film is an energetic, bit on the tad long side, intense Western with a bunch of fun characters and some interesting ideas. And in the end, I think that The Harder They Fall is going to be a really underappreciated film, because I could tell, like, even just the audience rating on IMDb is like a 5.5, which makes me really sad, because this is something that brings a fresh, new, interesting voice to the table and freshens up a tired genre like the Western and builds some connections. And in the end, I feel like The Harder They Fall is definitely worth a watch. And it's cool seeing a rebirth of like spaghetti westerns and stuff like that. And getting a chance to watch this was tons of fun. And I hope you all have fun, and I hope that you all go check out this film as well. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.